I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd end up bleeding on a hospital floor, staring up at the fluorescent lights while my stepbrother stood over me with his fist still clenched. But that's exactly where I found myself on a cold Tuesday afternoon in November, and I need to tell you how I got there. My name is Vanessa Morgan. I'm 32 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I understood what family meant. The story really begins with my mother's funeral. She died on a Sunday morning in May, quietly in her sleep, which is what everyone says is a blessing. But there's nothing blessed about losing your mother at 61 when she still had so much life left to live. I was the one who found her, still in her favorite floral nightgown, her reading glasses perched on the nightstand next to a half-finished mystery novel she'd never get to solve. The funeral was small. Mom didn't have many friends left. Most had drifted away after she married Gerald Turner 5 years ago. Gerald was a real estate developer, the kind of man who wore expensive suits and talked loudly about deals and investments at dinner parties. He had a son from his first marriage, Derek Turner, 35 years old. With his father's sharp jaw and his mother's cold blue eyes. I'd never liked Derek. Not from the first Thanksgiving when he'd showed up late, reeking of cologne and arrogance, barely acknowledging my mother before helping himself to the turkey. But Mom loved Gerald, and Gerald came with Derek. So I swallowed my discomfort and tried to be civil. At the funeral, Derek wore a black suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He stood next to his father, dry-eyed, checking his phone between hymns. I wanted to scream at him. This was my mother. My beautiful, kind, gentle mother who'd raised me alone after my dad died when I was 7. She'd worked 2 jobs to put me through college, had held my hand through every heartbreak, had been my best friend, and Derek couldn't even pretend to care for 2 hours after the burial. We gathered at Mom's house, well, Gerald's house now, I suppose. It was a beautiful colonial in the suburbs, the kind of place Mom had always dreamed of living in. She'd only had it for 5 years. Gerald pulled me aside in the kitchen while people picked at casseroles and spoke in hushed tones. Vanessa, honey, he said, and I tried not to flinch at the endearment. He'd never called me honey when Mom was alive. We need to talk about your mother's things. Her things? The house, her belongings, the estate. There are arrangements to be made. I nodded, numb. I hadn't thought about any of that. I'd been too busy drowning in grief. Your mother and I, we had everything set up legally. The house is mine, of course. We can talk about her personal items, jewelry and such, but I'll need you to clear out her belongings within the month. Within the month. Like she was a tenant who'd overstayed her welcome. Of course. I heard myself say. Derek appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. Dad, the Mitchells are leaving. You should say goodbye. Gerald patted my shoulder and left. Derek stayed, leaning against the doorframe, studying me with those ice-chip eyes. You doing okay? He asked, but there was something off about the way he said it, like he was reading lines from a script. I'm fine. I lied, you know. If you need anything. He let the sentence hang there unfinished, loaded with something I couldn't quite name. I turned away, busying myself with covering leftover food. I'm fine, I repeated. He left without another word. But I felt his eyes on my back the whole time. The next few weeks were a blur of grief and logistics. I took time off from my job at the library to sort through Mom's belongings. Each item was a memory. Her favorite sweater that still smelled like her perfume. The recipe box with her handwriting on faded index cards. The photo albums documenting my entire childhood. I was packing up her bedroom on a Wednesday afternoon when Derek showed up unannounced. Gerald's at a conference in Boston, he said, walking in like he owned the place. Which, technically, his father did. Thought I'd check on you. I'm almost done, I said, folding one of Mom's scarves. I'll be out of your hair soon. No rush. He sat on the edge of the bed, my mother's bed, and something about it made my skin crawl. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. I kept packing, not looking at him. Dad's thinking of selling this place. Market's good right now, but the thing is... He paused, and I could feel him watching me. Your mom had some debts. I froze. What? Medical bills, mostly. from before she married Dad. Credit cards. Nothing huge, but it adds up. My mother had never mentioned debts. She'd been so careful with money, so responsible. How much? I asked quietly. About 47,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. That's impossible. I've got the paperwork. Dad's lawyer found it all. And legally, as her next of kin, you're responsible. But she married your father. Wouldn't he premarital debt? It's all in the prenup they signed. Dad's protected. But you, Derek stood up, moving closer. You're on the hook. I sank into the chair by the window, the same chair where Mom used to sit and read in the afternoons. $47,000. I made $32,000 a year at the library. I had $1,700 in my savings account. I can't pay that, I whispered. I know. Derek's voice was softer now, almost gentle. That's why I wanted to talk to you. I might be able to help. I looked up at him, desperate, hating myself for the hope that bloomed in my chest. I've got some connections. People who owe me favors. I could make this go away. He crouched down in front of me, and I could smell his expensive cologne. But I need something from you. What? He smiled, and there was nothing kind in it. We'll talk about that later. For now, just know I'm willing to help family. He left before I could ask more questions, and I sat there in my mother's chair, surrounded by her things, feeling like I was drowning. 2 weeks later, I started getting calls from collection agencies. The debt was real. Derek hadn't been lying. And with each call, each threatening letter, I felt more trapped. Derek called me on a Friday evening. Dinner tomorrow? We should discuss our arrangement. I didn't want to go. Every instinct told me to stay away. But what choice did I have? I was being crushed under the weight of a debt I'd never asked for medical treatments I hadn't known about. We met at an upscale steakhouse downtown. Derek ordered wine like he was performing for an invisible audience, swirling and sniffing and pronouncing it acceptable. I couldn't eat, so he said, cutting into a rare steak. Here's what I'm thinking. I pay off your debt, all of it. Clean slate, and in return, you do some work for me. What kind of work? I've got properties, investment properties. They need managing, collecting rent, handling maintenance requests, keeping the books. Easy stuff. You're smart, organized. You'd be perfect. It sounded too good to be true. That's it? Property management? That's it. He smiled. We're family, Vanessa. I want to help you. I should have known better. I should have heard the trap snapping shut. But I was drowning, and he was offering me air. Okay, I said. The paperwork was drawn up within a week. Derek paid off every cent of my mother's debt. The collection calls stopped. I could breathe again. The property management job started simply enough. Derek owned 3 apartment buildings in different parts of the city. I collected rent, coordinated with repair people, kept spreadsheets. It was boring but straightforward. Then, about 6 weeks in, things changed. Derek called me on a Monday morning. I need you to do me a favor. What kind of favor? There's a tenant in the Riverside building. Unit for C. She's 3 months behind on rent. I need you to handle it. Handle it how? Talk to her. Get the money or get her out. I never evicted anyone before. The thought made me sick. But this was my job now. Okay, I'll try. The woman in for C was named Patricia Kim. She was maybe 55, with tired eyes and hands that shook when she opened the door. I know I'm behind, she said before I could speak. I'm sorry. My daughter's been sick. And the hospital bills. My heart broke. How much do you owe? $4,200. I've got $1,500 saved. I can get you the rest by the end of the month, I swear. I reported back to Derek. She's got $1,500 now and she'll have the rest in 2 weeks. She's good for it, not good enough. I want her out by Friday. Derek. She's trying. She's got a sick daughter. I don't care about her sob story. I want that unit empty. There's someone willing to pay double what she's paying, but I need her gone first. I can't do that. His voice went cold. You signed a contract, Vanessa. You work for me now. Do your job or I'll take you to court for a breach of contract. And trust me, you don't want more legal bills. I felt sick. But what could I do? I gave Patricia her eviction notice, and I watched her cry, and I hated myself. That was just the beginning. Over the next 3 months, Derek had me do things that kept me awake at night. Falsifying maintenance reports so he didn't have to fix broken heaters, accepting cash rent payments without giving receipts, pocketing the difference, looking the other way when his business associates used empty units for purposes I didn't want to think about. I was trapped. Every time I tried to push back, Derek reminded me of the contract, the debt he'd paid, how easily he could destroy me financially. I started having panic attacks. Stopped sleeping. Lost 15 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. And then in October, everything got worse. I'd been having problems. Women's problems. Irregular bleeding that wouldn't stop. Pain that made me double over. I ignored it for weeks because I couldn't afford to take time off work. Couldn't afford to see a doctor. Finally, one evening, I collapsed in my apartment bathroom. My neighbor heard me fall and called 911. I woke up in the emergency room at St. Benedict's Medical Center. A young doctor with kind eyes told me I'd needed emergency surgery. A ruptured ovarian cyst that had caused internal bleeding. You're lucky, she said. If you'd waited another day. I spent 2 days in the hospital. The surgery was laparoscopic, but I had stitches and bruising and strict orders to rest for 2 weeks. The hospital bill came to $18,000. My insurance covered some of it, but I was still looking at $6,000 out of pocket. I couldn't pay it. I could barely make rent. I called Derek from my hospital bed. I didn't want to, but I had no one else. Hey, Vanessa, he said, and I could hear voices in the background. He was somewhere loud. A bar maybe. What's up? I'm in the hospital. I had emergency surgery. Oh, that sucks. You okay? I will be. But Derek, I have a problem. The bill is $6,000. I don't have $6,000. Damn, that's rough. I waited. He didn't offer to help. Derek, I know I'm asking a lot, but is there any way you could loan you? Vanessa, I already bailed you out once. I can't keep rescuing you. This isn't my fault. I needed emergency surgery. Look, I'll think about it, okay? But I gotta go. Feel better. He hung up. I lay there in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, and something inside me cracked. 2 days later, I was discharged with a bottle of pain pills and instructions to follow up with my gynecologist in a week. I could barely walk upright. Every movement pulled at my stitches. I went home to my tiny apartment, and I cried for 3 hours straight. The follow-up appointment was on a Tuesday. The gynecologist's office was in a medical building attached to the hospital. Dr. Rachel Huang was the surgeon who'd operated on me, and she wanted to check my incisions, make sure everything was healing properly. I got there early, moving slowly, each step sending sharp pains through my abdomen. The waiting room was nearly empty, just me and an older woman reading a magazine. I checked in with the receptionist, a college-aged girl with a nose ring and bright pink nails. Miss Morgan? Your copay for today is $250. I stared at her. I don't have that right now. Can I pay later? She looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but we require payment before the appointment. It's policy. But I need this follow-up. I just had surgery. Dr. Huang needs to check, I understand. But there's nothing I can do. No payment, no appointment. I felt tears building. I was standing there in the waiting room, still healing from emergency surgery, being told I couldn't see my doctor because I was too poor. Please, I whispered. I'm in pain. I just need her to look at my stitches. I'm sorry. I turned away, humiliated, ready to leave. That's when Derek walked in. I didn't know why he was there at first. He was dressed in casual clothes, jeans, and a leather jacket, and he looked annoyed about something. Then I saw the woman behind him, young, maybe 22, with long dark hair and mascara running down her cheeks. She was crying, clutching her stomach. Derek saw me and stopped. Vanessa? What are you doing here? Follow-up appointment, I said quietly. What are you? None of your business. He turned to the receptionist. This is Madison Torres. She's got an appointment with Dr. Huang. The girl Madison wouldn't look at me. She kept her eyes on the floor, her whole body shaking. The receptionist checked her computer. I don't see an appointment. We don't need an appointment. This is an emergency. She needs to see the doctor now. Sir, I can't just. Derek pulled out his wallet and slapped down a credit card. Whatever it costs. Charge it. The receptionist's eyes widened. I'll check with the doctor. She disappeared into the back. Derek steered Madison to a chair in the corner, speaking to her in low tones I couldn't hear. The girl was still crying. I stood there frozen, my mind racing. Something was very wrong. The receptionist came back. Dr. Huang can see her, but there's a wait. Maybe 40 minutes. Fine. Derek sat down next to Madison, scrolling through his phone. I should have left. I should have walked out and never looked back. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this girl needed help. I sat down a few chairs away, pretending to read a magazine from 2019. Watching them out of the corner of my eye, Madison was crying harder now, trying to muffle the sounds. Derek's jaw was tight, his fingers drumming impatiently on the armrest. Stop crying, he hissed at her. You're making a scene. I'm scared. She whimpered. You should have thought about that before. Before what? I wanted to ask, but I kept quiet. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. The waiting room stayed empty except for us. The older woman had been called back, leaving just me, Derek, and Madison. Derek stood up abruptly. I'm going to make a call. Don't move. He walked out into the hallway. The moment he was gone, I moved closer to Madison. Are you okay? I asked softly. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I don't want to do this. Do what? I'm 8 weeks pregnant, she whispered. He wants me to, but I don't want to. I thought I did, but I don't. I can't. My blood ran cold. Did Derek bring you here for an abortion? She nodded, fresh tears spilling over. Do you want to be pregnant? I don't know. Maybe. I just know I don't want to do this today. Not like this. But he said if I don't, he'll make my life hell. He knows people. He can ruin me. I'd heard those words before, from Derek's own mouth. Listen to me, I said urgently. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. This is your body, your choice. If you want to leave, what are you doing? Derek's voice cut through the room like a knife. He was standing in the doorway, staring at us with fury in his eyes. I was just talking to my girlfriend about things that are none of your business. He grabbed Madison's arm, pulling her to her feet. Come on, we're going somewhere private to wait, Derek. Let go of her, stay out of this. Vanessa, but I couldn't. Something in Madison's terrified eyes reminded me of every victim I'd helped evict. Every person Derek had bullied and manipulated, including me. No, I said, standing up even though it made my stitches scream. If she doesn't want to be here, she can leave. Derek's face went dark. Madison, go wait in the bathroom. Derek, she started. Now, she fled, practically running down the hallway. Derek turned on me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Pure rage. You have no idea what you just did, he said quietly. I'm trying to help her, help her. You can't even help yourself. You're pathetic, Vanessa. Living in that shitty apartment, working a minimum wage job, drowning in debt. You're nothing. The words hit like physical blows, but I stood my ground. At least I'm not forcing someone to have a medical procedure against their will. He stepped closer, invading my space. You think you're so moral? So righteous? You've been helping me break the law for months. You've evicted families, falsified documents, turned a blind eye to illegal activities. You're just as guilty as I am. Because you manipulated me, I gave you a choice. You chose money over morals. Don't blame me for that. You trapped me. I helped you. And this is how you repay me. By interfering in my personal life. The receptionist appeared in the doorway. Is everything okay out here? Fine, Derek said, his voice suddenly pleasant. Just a family discussion. She hesitated, then retreated. Derek leaned in close, his breath hot on my face. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to forget you saw anything today. And you're going to remember that I own you. I paid your mother's debts. I gave you a job. You work for me. I quit. The words were out before I could stop them. Derek laughed. But there was no humor in it. You can't quit. We have a contract. Sue me. I don't care anymore. Oh. You'll care. I'll destroy you, Vanessa. I'll make sure you never work again. Mr. Turner? We both turned. Dr. Huang was standing there, a middle-aged woman with graying hair and a professional smile. "Miss Torres is ready for her appointment." Derek's expression smoothed out instantly. "Great, I'll get her." He walked toward the bathroom, leaving me standing there, shaking. Dr. Huang looked at me. "Miss Morgan, I thought you had an appointment today too?" I couldn't pay the copay." Her expression softened. "Come to my office. Let me check your incisions. We'll work something out with billing." I wanted to cry from relief. "Thank you." I followed her down the hallway, past Derek, who was knocking on the bathroom door, calling Madison's name in a voice that was trying too hard to sound gentle. Dr. Huang examined my stitches in one of the small exam rooms. "They're healing well. You've been taking it easy?" "As much as I can." "Good. Any pain? Fever? Unusual discharge?" "Just soreness." She nodded, making notes. "I want to see you again in 2 weeks. And Vanessa, about the payment issue. I'm going to have billing set up a payment plan for you. Small monthly amounts. Does that work?" "Yes, thank you so much. We take care of our patients here." She paused. "That young woman out there, Madison, do you know her?" I hesitated. "Not really. She's connected to my stepbrother. She seems distressed." "She is." Dr. Huang chose her words carefully. "If someone is being coerced into a medical procedure, that's something we take very seriously. We have resources, people who can help. I think she needs those resources." Dr. Huang nodded slowly. "I'll have a private conversation with her, alone, without Mr. Turner present." "Thank you." I left the exam room feeling lighter than I had in months. Maybe Madison would find the courage to make her own choice. Maybe Dr. Huang could help her. I walked back toward the waiting room to get my coat. Derek was there, alone now, pacing like a caged animal. When he saw me, his face twisted. "Where is she?" he demanded. "Who?" "Madison. She's not in the bathroom. The receptionist said she left through the back entrance 10 minutes ago." "Good for her." Derek's hand shot out and grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "What did you say to her?" "Let go of me." "What did you say?" "I told her she had a choice. And she made it." He shoved me backward. I stumbled, my back hitting the wall, pain exploding through my abdomen where my incisions were still healing. "You had no right." "I had every right." "You were forcing her." "I wasn't forcing anyone. She wanted this. She needed this." "But you just can't help yourself, can you? Always playing the hero, the victim, the martyr." "Derek, you need to calm down. Don't tell me what I need." His voice echoed through the waiting room. The receptionist was on her phone, I realized, calling someone. "You've ruined everything," Derek continued, his voice dropping to something more dangerous than shouting. "Madison was supposed to handle this quietly. No drama, no complications. But now she's going to run her mouth, tell people, and it's all going to come back on me." "Good. You deserve." He grabbed both my arms this time, shaking me. "You don't get it. I have a reputation, a business. People trust me with their investments, their properties. If this gets out, if she tells people I was trying to what? Force her to have an abortion she didn't want?" "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Derek?" He let go of me suddenly, running his hands through his hair. "She said she was on birth control. She lied. This whole thing is her fault, her responsibility. I offered to pay for it, to handle it, to make it easy for her. But she had to make it complicated. Just like you're making it complicated. A pregnancy isn't complicated, Derek. It's a human being. And it's her choice what to do about it. Easy for you to say. You're not the one whose life is about to be ruined by some lying girl. Get out." We both turned. Dr. Huang was standing there with 2 security guards. "Mr. Turner, you need to leave this facility immediately. I have every right to be here. You're harassing patients and staff. Leave now, or I'll have you arrested for assault." Derek looked at me, at Dr. Huang, at the security guards. For a moment, I thought he might actually try to fight them. Then he smiled, cold and calculating. "Fine, I'll leave." He looked at me. "But this isn't over. Not even close." He walked out, and I felt my legs start to shake. Dr. Huang touched my shoulder gently. "Are you all right?" "I don't know." "Come sit down." She led me back to an exam room, brought me water. checked my incisions again to make sure Derek hadn't done any damage. "I'm calling the police," she said quietly. "What?" "No, you don't have to. He assaulted you. He threatened you." "I'm a mandatory reporter, Vanessa. I have to." I started to protest, then stopped. She was right. And more than that, I was tired. Tired of being scared. Tired of being controlled. Tired of letting Derek walk all over me. "Okay," I said. The police came within 20 minutes. 2 officers, a young guy who looked fresh out of the academy and an older woman with gray streaks in her dark hair. I told them everything. The debt, the job, the illegal activities Derek had made me part of. The way he'd manipulated and controlled me for months. The woman in Furcy I'd evicted while she was caring for her sick daughter. The falsified maintenance reports. The cash payments without receipts. And finally, what had happened today with Madison. "Do you know Madison's last name?" the older officer asked. "Torres. That's all I know." "And she left the building?" "Through the back entrance, apparently." The officer made notes. "We'll need to speak with her. And Mr. Turner, can you provide his contact information?" "I gave them everything I had, Miss Morgan," the older officer said. "What Mr. Turner did today constitutes assault and harassment at minimum. The other activities you've described, the falsified documents, the cash payments, those are serious crimes. We'll need you to make a formal statement." "Will I be in trouble for helping him?" "That's not for me to say. But cooperating with our investigation will help your case. The fact that you're coming forward voluntarily shows good faith." I nodded, feeling numb. They took my statement there in the medical building, in a small conference room Dr. Huang let us use. It took almost 2 hours to tell them everything. When I finally left the building, it was dark outside. My phone had 17 missed calls, all from Derek. I blocked his number and took an Uber home. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like Derek coming for revenge. Around 3 in the morning, my phone rang. A known number. "Hello? Vanessa? It's Madison. Madison Torres. Madison. Are you okay?" "I'm safe. I'm at my sister's house across town. I wanted to say thank you for what you said today. I needed someone to tell me I had a choice. You always had a choice. I know that now. I'm keeping the baby. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm keeping it." I felt tears building. "I'm glad. The police called me. They want me to give a statement about Derek. Are you going to?" "Yes. He doesn't get to control me anymore. Or you. Or anyone. Thank you, Madison. Thank you, Vanessa, for being brave enough to speak up." After we hung up, I cried again. But this time, they were different tears. Relief. Hope. Something like redemption. The next week was chaos. The police investigation into Derek expanded. They found evidence of financial crimes, money laundering through his rental properties, tax evasion, fraud. My testimony about the falsified documents and cash payments helped build their case. Derek was arrested on a Friday morning. The news showed him being led out of his office building in handcuffs, his expensive suit rumpled, his face purple with rage. I should have felt triumph. Instead, I just felt tired. Gerald called me that afternoon. "Vanessa, I don't understand what's happening. Derek says you've been lying about him, trying to get revenge for some imagined slight." "Gerald, your son is an abuser and a criminal." "I'm sorry, but it's true. He was trying to help you. He was manipulating me, just like he manipulated Madison and God knows how many other people. I can't believe. He's my son. I know, and I'm sorry. But that doesn't change what he did." Gerald hung up without saying goodbye. The hospital billing department called me a few days later. Someone had paid off my entire bill, the $6,000 I owed, plus the copays. "Who?" I asked a billing representative. It was anonymous. "A cashier's check." I suspected Dr. Huang, but when I asked, she just smiled and changed the subject. The trial took 9 months to start. 9 months of depositions and lawyers and sleepless nights. 9 months of looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows, wondering if Derek would somehow get to me before the trial began. But he didn't. He couldn't. He was in jail, denied bail because the judge deemed him a flight risk. I had to testify. The prosecution needed me to establish Derek's pattern of manipulation and control. I sat in that witness box for 6 hours over 2 days, telling a courtroom full of strangers about the worst period of my life. Derek's lawyer tried to make me look like a vindictive stepsister seeking revenge, like a criminal who'd participated willingly in illegal activities and was now trying to save herself by blaming Derek. But the prosecutor was better. She showed the timeline how Derek had swooped in right after my mother's death, how he'd trapped me with debt and contracts, how he'd gradually escalated his demands. And I wasn't the only witness. Madison testified. So did Patricia Kim from Unit 4C. So did 3 other women Derek had dated and controlled and discarded. A pattern emerged. Derek targeted vulnerable women with financial problems, women in crisis, women who needed help, and he used that vulnerability against them. He offered to help, then slowly tightened the noose until they felt they had no choice but to obey him. The jury deliberated for 11 hours, guilty on 18 counts. Fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, assault, coercion. Sentencing was 3 weeks later. The judge gave him 12 years. I wasn't there for the sentencing. I couldn't face him again. But Madison was there, and she called me afterward. He cried, she said. When the judge read the sentence, he actually cried and begged for leniency. Did he get it? No, the judge said he'd preyed on vulnerable women for years and showed no remorse until he was facing consequences. 12 years. No parole eligibility for 6. I sat down on my couch, my legs suddenly weak. It's really over. It's over. Madison confirmed. He can't hurt us anymore. That was 8 months ago. I'm sitting in my new apartment now, a sunny 1-bedroom in a better neighborhood, writing this story. The apartment was paid for with the settlement money from a lawsuit I filed against Derek's estate. His properties were seized and sold, the proceeds used to compensate his victims. I got enough to pay off my remaining debts and start over. I quit the library job. It paid too little and reminded me too much of the person I'd been when Derek had control over me, small, scared, trapped. Now I work for a nonprofit that helps women escape financial abuse. I talk to women who are where I was a year ago, and I tell them what I wish someone had told me. You deserve better. You don't owe your abuser anything. There is a way out. Madison had her baby, a little girl named Hope. I visited them in the hospital, brought a stuffed elephant and a card. Madison looked exhausted but radiant. I can't believe I almost... She trailed off, looking down at the tiny person sleeping in her arms. But you didn't. You made your choice. Because you helped me see I had one. We're friends now, Madison and I. We meet for coffee every few weeks, trade stories about our therapy sessions, laugh about stupid things. She's going back to school to become a nurse. I'm thinking about getting my master's in social work. Patricia Kim sent me a card a few months ago. She'd found a new apartment. Her daughter was in remission, and she'd gotten a better job. Thank you for trying to help me, she wrote. Even though you were trapped too. I keep that card on my refrigerator. Gerald never spoke to me again after Derek's arrest. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he moved to Florida, sold the house where my mother had been so happy for such a short time. I don't know if he believes me about Derek. I don't know if he ever will. Some fathers can't see their sons clearly, no matter how much evidence you put in front of them. I forgave him anyway. Not for him, for me. Because carrying that anger was like carrying Derek around in my chest, letting him take up space in my life even from behind bars. Dr. Huang became something of a mentor to me. We have lunch once a month, and she tells me stories about her own journey, how she became a doctor, how she learned to stand up for her patients, how she navigates the medical system's many failures. She was the one who encouraged me to apply for the job at the nonprofit. You have a gift, she told me over Vietnamese food one afternoon. You see people who are suffering, and you don't look away. That's rare. I looked away for a long time, I said. When Derek had me evicting people, falsifying documents, you were a victim too. You know that now, right? I did. Therapy had helped me understand that. Twice a week for 6 months with a counselor who specialized in abuse and trauma, I'd worked through the guilt and shame and self-blame. I still had bad days when I woke up, convinced I was a terrible person who'd hurt innocent people, but they were getting fewer and farther between. The hardest part wasn't the trial or the testimony, or even the nightmares that it was forgiving myself, understanding that I'd been manipulated, didn't erase the harm I'd caused. Patricia Kim had still been evicted because I'd delivered that notice. Other families had still lost their homes because I'd processed their paperwork. People had still suffered because I'd been too afraid to say no. My therapist had me write letters to each of the people I could remember hurting. I didn't send most of them. Some people had moved on and didn't need me dragging them back into trauma, but the act of writing them, of acknowledging the harm, helped. Patricia was one of the few who I did send a letter to. She wrote back, "I don't blame you," she said. "I blame the system that makes people like Derek Turner possible. I blame the laws that protect landlords and punish tenants. I blame the wealth inequality that forces people to make impossible choices. You were just another person caught in that system, doing what you thought you had to do to survive." I get that. I cried when I read her letter. Not the bitter tears I'd shed so many times before, but something cleaner. Relief, maybe. Or the beginning of peace. My mother's birthday was in March. I visited her grave for the first time since the funeral, bringing the yellow tulips she'd always loved. I sat on the cold ground next to her headstone and talked to her like she was still here. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my problems," I said. "About the debt, the fear, all of it. I think I was trying to protect you. You'd been through so much already, and you seemed so happy with Gerald. I didn't want to ruin that." The wind rustled through the trees. A cardinal landed on a nearby branch, its red feathers bright against the gray March sky. "Derek's in prison now. He can't hurt anyone else. And I'm okay, Mom. I'm actually okay. Better than okay. Some days. I have a job that matters. I have friends. I'm helping people." I touched her headstone, the marble cold under my fingers. "I wish you were here to see it, to see who I'm becoming. But I think you'd be proud," the cardinal sang. 3 clear notes, then flew away. I stood up, brushed the dirt from my jeans, and left the cemetery feeling lighter than I had in over a year. Spring turned to summer. I threw myself into work, into helping other women find their way out of the traps that abusive men had set for them. Some of the stories were worse than mine. Some were not as bad, but just as devastating. Every woman carried her own specific pain, her own particular shame. I learned to listen without judgment, to offer resources without pushing, to believe them when they said they couldn't leave, and to be there when they finally could. In July, I got a letter from Derek. It came to my office. He must have found the address online. My hands shook as I held it, his handwriting on the envelope making my stomach turn. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. I opened it in my therapist's office during my weekly session, wanting to be in a safe space when I confronted whatever poison he'd written. The letter was short. "Vanessa, I've had a lot of time to think in here about what I did, why I did it, who I hurt. My therapist says I need to take accountability. So here it is. I was wrong. I manipulated you. I used your grief and fear against you. I turned you into someone you're not. And I did it deliberately because it gave me power. I can't undo that. I can't give you back the months you spent hating yourself because of what I made you do. I can't erase the fear or the shame or the trauma. But I can tell you this. It wasn't your fault. None of it. You tried to do the right thing in impossible circumstances. You spoke up when it mattered most. You saved Madison and her baby, even though it meant destroying your own stability. That took courage I don't have. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did to you now. And I'm sorry. Derek. I read it 3 times. Looking for the trap, the manipulation, the hidden agenda. My therapist watched me quietly. "What do you think?" she finally asked. I think he means it. Or part of him does. But I also think he's trying to make himself feel better. Trying to be the victim who's learned and grown so he can feel less guilty. Does it matter if he means it? I thought about that. No, it doesn't change anything. He still did what he did. I still suffered. Madison still almost lost her chance to choose. All those families still lost their homes. But maybe it helps, a little, to know he finally sees it. To know I'm not crazy. That it really was as bad as I remember. I didn't write back. There was nothing to say. Derek would serve his time, do his therapy, maybe become a better person. Maybe not. Either way, it wasn't my responsibility anymore. I put the letter in a drawer and got back to work. In September, Madison invited me to Hope's first birthday party. It was a small gathering in her sister's backyard. Family, a few close friends, balloons tied to every available surface. Hope was walking now, tottering around on chubby legs, her dark curls bouncing. She had Madison's eyes and smile. "She's beautiful," I said, watching her attack a cupcake with both hands. "She's a nightmare," Madison said, but she was laughing. "She doesn't sleep. She's into everything. And she screams like a pterodactyl when she doesn't get her way. So, a normal 1-year-old. A perfect 1-year-old. Madison's expression softened. "I can't imagine my life without her now. Can't imagine how close I came to." She didn't finish. "She didn't have to. You made the right choice for you," I said. "That's what matters." We both did. Made the right choices, I mean. It cost us both so much. But we did it. She was right. Standing up to Derek had cost me my sense of safety, my relationship with Gerald, months of my life to investigations and trials and healing. It had cost Madison her relationship, her privacy, her naive belief that people who said they loved you would protect you. But we'd survived. More than that, we'd grown. At the end of October, on the anniversary of the day Derek had assaulted me in that medical building, I did something I'd been planning for months. I went back to St. Benedict's Medical Center, not as a patient this time, as a volunteer. The hospital had a program that provided support to women facing difficult medical decisions, women like Madison who needed someone to talk to, someone to remind them that they had choices and rights and worth. Dr. Huang had helped me get certified as a patient advocate. Now I spent every Saturday morning at the hospital, sitting with women in waiting rooms, holding their hands, listening to their fears, helping them find their voices. Some of them were there for abortions, some for fertility treatments, some for cancer diagnoses or difficult pregnancies or 100 other reasons women end up in gynecologists' offices feeling scared and alone. I didn't judge. I didn't advise. I just showed up, reminded them that whatever they decided, it was their choice. That they didn't have to do what their boyfriends or husbands or parents wanted. That their bodies belonged to them. On my first day, I met a girl named Sophie. She was 19, pregnant, terrified. Her boyfriend was in the waiting room, and every time she looked toward the door, she flinched. "I don't know what to do," she whispered to me. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "I want to keep it. But he says we can't afford it. That it'll ruin our lives. That I have to get rid of it today or he's leaving." I heard Derek's voice in those words. The ultimatums, the threats, the removal of choice disguised as concern. "Sophie," I said carefully, "if money weren't an issue, and if your boyfriend supported whatever you decided, what would you want?" She started crying. "I'd keep it. I know I'm young, and I know it'll be hard, but I want this baby." "Then that's your answer. But he'll leave me maybe." "But if he leaves you because you made a choice about your own body, is that someone you want to build a life with?" She looked at me with wide, frightened eyes. Then, slowly, she shook her head. "I can't do this," she said. "I can't have the abortion. I don't want to, okay? Then let's figure out your next steps. There are resources, places that can help with prenatal care, housing if you need it, financial assistance. You don't have to do this alone." I spent 2 hours with Sophie that day. We looked up resources on my phone. I gave her the numbers for domestic violence hotlines, just in case. I walked her past her boyfriend in the waiting room and out to her car. He called after her, angry, demanding she come back. She got in her car and drove away. I don't know what happened to Sophie after that. I hope she's okay. I hope she found support, had her baby if that's what she still wanted, built a life free from men who tried to control her. But even if I never know her ending, I know I helped her in that moment. I gave her what someone gave me in that same hospital a year ago, permission to choose herself. That's what revenge looks like. I've learned. Not dramatic confrontations or public humiliations or carefully orchestrated downfalls. Real revenge is healing. It's taking the power back. It's using your pain to prevent someone else's. Derek took a year of my life. He took my sense of safety, my relationship with my mother's memory, my trust in family. He turned me into someone I didn't recognize, someone who hurt people, who looked away from suffering, who chose survival over morality. But I took something back from him too. I took the ending. I decided how the story would finish, not with me broken and afraid, but with me standing up, speaking out, helping others do the same. He's in prison. Yes, that's justice. But my revenge is sweeter than that. My revenge is every woman I help find her voice. Every Sophie who drives away from her controlling boyfriend. Every Madison who keeps the baby she wants or doesn't keep the one she doesn't, because it's her choice either way. My revenge is waking up every morning without fear. It's looking in the mirror and recognizing the person staring back. It's building a life that has meaning beyond just surviving. My revenge is living well. On a cold November evening, exactly 1 year after Derek's arrest, I met my colleagues from the nonprofit for dinner. We were celebrating we'd just secured funding for another year, which meant we could help even more women escape financial abuse. Over Thai food and too much wine, we shared stories, victories and failures, funny moments and heartbreaking ones. These women had become my family, in a way chosen family, the kind you build when your blood family fails you. Sarah, our director, raised her glass. To another year of fighting the good fight. We all raised our glasses, echoing the toast. And to Vanessa, Sarah added, looking at me, who turned her own nightmare into a roadmap for helping others, who shows up every day with compassion and courage, who reminds us all why this work matters. I felt my eyes sting with tears, happy tears this time. Thank you, I managed to say, for giving me a place to heal, for trusting me with this work, for seeing me as more than just another victim. You were never just a victim, Sarah said. You were always a survivor. We just gave you the space to remember that. Walking home that night, my breath making clouds in the cold air, I thought about how much had changed. A year ago, I'd been terrified, broken, convinced my life was over. I'd seen no way out, no hope for anything better. Now I had purpose, community, hope. Derek had tried to destroy me. He'd taken my vulnerability, my grief over my mother, my financial desperation, and weaponized it. He'd turned me into an accomplice in hurting others, then held that over my head as leverage. But he'd underestimated me, underestimated my capacity to heal, to fight back, to transform pain into purpose. In a way, I should thank him, not for what he did that was unforgivable, but for inadvertently teaching me what I was capable of. Teaching me that I could survive the worst and come out stronger. Teaching me that speaking up, even when you're terrified, is always worth it. I won't thank him though. He doesn't deserve my gratitude. What he deserves is exactly what he got. Consequences, accountability, the loss of the power he'd wielded so carelessly. And what I deserve is what I've built. A life of meaning, peace, the knowledge that I turned my worst experience into a tool for helping others. That's victory. That's closure. That's revenge. I still have hard days. Days when I wake up from nightmares where Derek is standing over me in that hospital waiting room again, his hand raised to strike. Days when the guilt over the families I evicted sits heavy on my chest. Days when I doubt everything, my choices, my worth, my right to call myself a survivor when I'd also been a perpetrator. But I have more good days now. Days when I help a woman open a bank account her abusive partner doesn't know about. Days when I watch someone sign a lease for their own apartment, free from control for the first time in years. Days when I get cards from women thanking me for listening, for believing them, for showing them a way forward. Those days make the hard ones worth it. Last week, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Old habits die hard. An unknown number still sometimes spike my anxiety. But I picked up. Vanessa? It's Patricia. Patricia Kim. Patricia. How are you? I'm good. Really good. I'm calling because, well, my daughter just finished her last round of chemotherapy. She's in remission. Full remission. I felt my throat tighten. Patricia, that's wonderful. It is. And I wanted you to know. Because in some strange way, what happened, the eviction, everything, it pushed us to make changes. We found better doctors, better treatment options. My daughter fought harder because we'd already lost so much, and she was determined we wouldn't lose anything else. I know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't sound crazy, I said quietly. Sometimes the worst things lead to necessary changes. I'm so glad she's okay. Thank you. And Vanessa, I forgive you for the eviction. I know Derek was controlling you. I know you didn't have a choice. I did have a choice, I said. I could have said no sooner. I could have walked away before I hurt anyone. But I was scared. We're all scared. That's how people like Derek operate. But you found your courage when it mattered. That's what counts. After we hung up, I sat on my couch for a long time, letting her words sink in. Forgiveness from someone I'd hurt. It didn't erase what I'd done, but it helped heal the wound. I'm writing this story now because I think it needs to be told. Not for attention or sympathy, but because somewhere out there, someone is reading this who's trapped the way I was. Someone who's being manipulated by a partner, a family member, a friend. Someone who's being forced to do things that hurt others, that hurt themselves because the alternative seems worse. I want them to know there's a way out. It won't be easy. Speaking up might cost you everything: your financial security, your relationships, your sense of who you are. The legal system is slow and imperfect. Justice doesn't always look the way you want it to. Healing takes years, not weeks, but it's possible. You can escape. You can rebuild. You can transform your pain into purpose. You're stronger than you think, braver than you know, and you deserve better than what you're getting. Derek thought he could control me forever. He thought fear and debt and shame would keep me silent and compliant. He was wrong, and whoever is controlling you, they're wrong too. You have a voice. Use it. You have choices. Make them. You have power. Claim it. That's my revenge. Not Derek's suffering, though that's satisfying in its own way, but every person who reads this and finds the courage to speak up. Every woman who walks away from her abuser. Every victim who becomes a survivor, and then a fighter, and then a helper for the next person who needs it. We break the cycle. We stop the pattern. We protect each other. That's how we win. This morning, I woke up in my sunny apartment, made coffee, and checked my schedule. 3 client meetings at the nonprofit, a training session for new volunteers, and my regular Saturday shift at the hospital. It's a good life. Not perfect. I still have debt to pay off, trauma to process, amends to make. But it's mine, built on my terms for my purposes, with my values at the center. Derek couldn't take that from me. No one can. I'm 33 years old, and I've survived the worst. Everything from here is a gift. The sun is streaming through my window now, warm on my face. I can hear my neighbor's kids playing in the yard next door, their laughter bright and innocent. I think about Hope, Madison's daughter, turning 1. About Sophie, wherever she is, hopefully safe. About all the women I've helped and all the ones I haven't met yet. About my mother, who I hope would be proud of the woman I've become. About revenge, and how it's not about making someone suffer, but about refusing to let their cruelty define you. I finish my coffee, grab my bag, and head out into the world. There's work to do, people to help, lives to save, including my own. And that's the best revenge of all. Living, thriving, becoming someone who uses her pain to prevent someone else's. Derek tried to break me. Instead, he made me unbreakable. And every day I wake up and choose kindness, choose courage, choose to help instead of hurt. That's my victory. That's how the story ends. Not with me on a hospital floor, bleeding and broken, but with me standing tall, healed and whole, reaching back to pull the next woman up. That's justice. That's closure. That's love. And in the end, love is the only revenge that matters.